Halloween is supposed to be about candy and costumes and maybe a few spooky stories. But it's not supposed to be about real fear. The kind of fear that makes your heart pound like a drum. The kind that makes your hands shake so much you can't even hold a glass of water. Around here, Halloween is different. It's not just about orange leaves and cool autumn air. No, our Halloweens are often cold. I mean really cold. The kind of cold that bites at your cheeks and turns your breath into a white cloud. Sometimes it even snows. Big fluffy flakes that cover everything in a layer of white. It makes the world quiet. Too quiet. The snow changes everything. It blankets the sidewalks. It piles up on the pumpkins sitting on front porches. Their carved smiles look a little less cheerful and a little more creepy under a dusting of snow. The usual sounds of Halloween disappear. You don't hear as many giggling kids running from house to house. Their laughter is muffled by the thick white blanket covering the world. The streets become empty much earlier than they should. It's like the snow tells everyone to go inside, to lock their doors, to stay safe. But what if safe is just a feeling? What if the danger isn't outside in the cold, snowy night? What if it's already inside with you? This kind of Halloween night is the perfect setting for a scary story. The world outside is a silent, white canvas. Inside, houses are warm and cozy, or they are supposed to be. But the silence can make you hear things you normally wouldn't. The creak of a floorboard upstairs, the whisper of the wind against a window. Every little sound becomes something more, something to worry about. It's on nights like these that your imagination can run wild. It can play tricks on you. Or maybe, just maybe, it's not a trick at all. Maybe the sounds are real. And maybe you are not as alone as you think you are. I have two stories for you. Two stories from two different Halloweens. But they both happened on a night just like this. A cold, snowy Halloween. A night when the world was quiet. And a night when terror decided to knock on the door. Or in one case just let itself in. So get comfortable. Pull your blanket up tight and listen closely, because these stories are true. They happen to people just like you, and they prove that sometimes the scariest thing about Halloween isn't the ghosts or the monsters. It's the real people, the ones you don't see coming. My story starts on a Halloween night a few years ago. I was home alone. My name is Alex, and I was 15. My parents had gone to a Halloween party across town. They told me to lock the doors and not answer for anyone. I said, okay, I know. I wasn't a little kid anymore. I planned on a quiet night. Just me, a giant bowl of popcorn, and a stack of old horror movies. Outside, the snow was coming down hard. It was piling up fast. I watched it from the living room window. The streetlights cast long, strange shadows on the fresh white snow. It was actually kind of beautiful, and very, very quiet. I wasn't expecting any trick-or-treaters. Not in this weather. The snow was already up to my ankles. Only the most dedicated candy hunters would be out tonight. I made sure the front porch light was off. That was the signal. No candy here. Go to the next house. I settled onto the couch, wrapped in a thick blanket. The first movie started. It was an old black and white one about a vampire. It was cheesy, not really scary. I munched on my popcorn. The only sounds were the movie and the wind howling outside. It was perfect. A cozy, spooky night all to myself. I felt safe and warm inside my house. The house was big and it made noises sometimes. Old houses do that. The pipes would groan. The floors would creak. I was used to it. I had lived there my whole life. So when I heard a small thud from the kitchen, I didn't think much of it. It was probably just the ice maker in the fridge, or maybe a pile of snow sliding off the roof. I turned the volume up on the TV. I wanted to hear the movie, not the house. I was trying to relax, to enjoy my night alone. But a small part of my brain held on to that sound. A little seed of worry had been planted. For the next hour, everything was normal, or as normal as it could be. The movie played on. I ate more popcorn. The snow kept falling. I almost forgot about the noise from the kitchen. I was lost in the world of vampires and castles. The house was quiet again, except for the TV. I felt my eyelids getting heavy. It was so warm under the blanket. I thought maybe I would just fall asleep right there on the couch. It was a peaceful thought, but peace wasn't going to last. Something was wrong in my house, and I was about to find out what it was. The first real sign that something was wrong was the cold. A sudden draft of icy air washed over me. It cut right through my warm blanket. It was so cold, it felt like someone had opened a window. But all the windows were closed. I had checked them myself. I sat up on the couch, shivering. Where was that cold air coming from? I looked around the living room. Everything seemed normal. The TV was still playing. The popcorn bowl was still on the table. But the feeling of being safe and cozy was gone. It had been replaced by a new feeling. A cold, prickly feeling of dread. I stood up and walked towards the hallway that led to the front door. The cold air was stronger there. It was like a river of ice flowing into the house. My heart started to beat a little faster. I took a few slow steps down the hall, and then I saw it. The front door, it was open. Not wide open, but just a little bit. It was cracked open just enough for the wind and snow to blow inside. A small pile of white powder had already formed on the wooden floor. But that was impossible. I had locked that door. I specifically remembered turning the deadbolt. My dad always said, always turn the deadbolt. I stared at the door. My mind was racing. How could it be open? Did I forget to lock it? No, I was sure I had. I remembered the click of the lock. So how? Maybe the wind blew it open. But it was a heavy door, and the deadbolt was on. The wind couldn't turn a deadbolt. A person had to turn it. A person. The thought hit me like a punch to the stomach. Someone had opened my door. Someone had been at my house. Were they still here? I quickly and quietly shut the door, my hand trembling as I turned the lock. Click. Then I turned the deadbolt. Click. I was locked in. But what if I had just locked the intruder in with me? My breath caught in my throat. I stood perfectly still in the hallway, listening. I strained my ears, trying to hear anything over the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. I heard nothing, just the wind outside. Maybe they were gone. Maybe they just opened the door and left. A dumb prank. That had to be it. A Halloween prank. I tried to tell myself that. I wanted to believe it. But then I noticed something else. At the end of the hall was a small closet. We used it to store coats. The closet door was also open. Just a crack. I never left that door open. Never. My eyes were glued to the closet door. It was just a dark sliver, a thin line of black in the dim hallway, but it felt like a giant gaping mouth. My mind screamed at me, someone is in there, someone is hiding in the closet. I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were nailed to the floor. I just stood there staring. Every horror movie I had ever seen flashed through my brain. The monster is always in the closet. The killer is always hiding in the shadows. This wasn't a movie. This was my house. And I was all alone. Or was I? The thought made a new wave of fear wash over me. I had to know. I had to be sure. I took a tiny shuffling step forward. Then another. The floorboards didn't even creak. It was like the house was holding its breath with me. I reached out a shaky hand. My fingers were cold and numb. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hide under my blanket on the couch and pretend none of this was happening. But I couldn't. I had to know what was behind that door. My fingers touched the cold metal of the doorknob. I hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if it was just nothing? I would feel so stupid. But what if I was right? With a deep breath, I pulled the door open. It swung inward with a soft swoosh. I braced myself. I expected a person to jump out. A monster. A clown. Anything. But there was nothing, just our winter coats hanging in a neat row. A few pairs of boots were on the floor. It was empty. A huge wave of relief washed over me. It was so powerful it almost made my knees buckle. I was just being paranoid. The wind blew the front door open, and it must have created a draft that pulled the closet door open too. That made sense, right? It had to make sense. I let out a shaky laugh. I felt so silly. My imagination had gotten the best of me. All those horror movies had finally rotted my brain. I was seeing intruders where there were only coats. I closed the closet door firmly. Click. I felt much better. I walked back towards the living room, my confidence returning with each step. It was all just a misunderstanding. A trick of the wind. I was safe. The house was empty. I was going to finish my movie and go to bed. But as I passed my bedroom door, I stopped. Something was wrong. The door was closed, but I always left it open, and from underneath it I could see a shadow. It wasn't a normal shadow. It wasn't the kind of shadow a piece of furniture makes. It was dark and thin. It stretched across the sliver of light coming from the hallway. It was the shape of a foot, or part of a foot. The front part of a shoe, to be exact. Someone was standing on the other side of my bedroom door. They were standing there perfectly still, waiting. All the air rushed out of my lungs. The relief I had felt just moments ago vanished. It was replaced by pure cold terror. This was real. This was not my imagination. There was someone in my house, and they were in my bedroom. My mind went blank. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was stare at that shadow, that dark shape under my door. It was so still, unnaturally still. Why weren't they moving? What were they doing in there? My bedroom was my safe space, my personal place, and a stranger was in it. The thought made me feel sick. I started to back away slowly. I didn't want to make a sound. I couldn't let them know I was here. I had to get away. I had to get help. Each step I took backward felt like it was in slow motion. The hallway seemed to stretch on for miles. Then, the shadow moved. It slid back, out of sight. My heart leapt into my throat. They were moving. Were they coming out? I froze, my back pressed against the wall. I held my breath, listening. I heard a sound, a soft, shuffling sound, like someone dragging their feet on the carpet. Then, I heard a click. It was a sound I knew well. It was the sound of my bedroom window being unlocked. My bedroom was on the second floor. Why would they unlock the window? Were they trying to get out, or were they letting someone else in? The question swirled in my head, making me dizzy with fear. I couldn't stay here. I had to get out of the house. Now. I turned and ran. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I just ran. My feet pounded on the floor as I raced back to the living room. I fumbled for my phone on the coffee table. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I had to call the police. I had to tell them someone was in my house. As I frantically dialed 911, I glanced back down the hallway. The shadow was back under the door. It wasn't moving. It was just there. A silent, terrifying reminder that I was not alone, and I was in terrible danger. The voice on the other end of the phone was calm. 911, what's your emergency? I could barely speak. My words came out in a jumbled, terrified whisper. Someone's in my house. They're in my bedroom. The operator asked for my address. She told me to stay on the line. She told me to get to a safe place. A safe place? Was any place in this house safe anymore? I crouched behind the couch, peering over the top. My eyes were locked on the hallway, on my bedroom door, on the shadow that was still there. It hadn't moved. It was like a statue, waiting for me. The operator kept talking to me. Her voice was a lifeline in the sea of my fear. She asked if I could see the person. I told her no, just a shadow. She asked if I was hurt. I said no. She told me that officers were on their way. She said they would be there in just a few minutes. A few minutes felt like a lifetime. Every second that ticked by was agony. What was the person in my room doing? Why were they just standing there? Were they listening to my phone call? Did they know I had called for help? The questions were torture. I felt so helpless hiding behind my own couch. Then I heard it. The sound of sirens. Faint at first, then growing louder and louder. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The sirens cut through the quiet, snowy night. They were coming for me. Help was coming. I saw the shadow under the door twitch. Then it pulled back, disappearing completely. A moment later, I heard a loud thud from my bedroom. It sounded like something heavy hitting the floor. Then, silence. The person was gone. Had they jumped out the window? The sirens were very close now. Red and blue lights flashed outside my living room window, painting the walls in frantic colors. A loud knock came from the front door. "Police! Open up!" I scrambled out from behind the couch and ran to the door. I fumbled with the locks and pulled it open. 2 police officers stood on my porch, their faces serious. Snow was falling on their shoulders. "Are you okay, son?" one of them asked. I just nodded, unable to speak. They came inside, their boots leaving wet tracks on the floor. They searched the whole house. They went into my room. They found the window unlocked and wide open. They found footprints in the snow on the roof below. But the person was gone. They had vanished into the snowy night. I was safe, but I was more confused than ever. Nothing was stolen, nothing was broken. They were just there. My second story is about a girl named Maya. It happened last Halloween. Her story also starts with something small, something that seemed like nothing at first. It started with her doorbell. For about a week before Halloween, her doorbell would ring at odd times. It would ring late at night when everyone was asleep. Ding dong. She would get up, go to the door, and look through the peephole. But there was never anyone there. The front porch would be empty. The street would be quiet. It was strange. It was annoying. But it wasn't scary. Not yet. It happened again the next night, and the night after that. Always late. Always the same. Ding dong. An empty porch. Maya started to get frustrated. She thought it was some kids from the neighborhood playing a prank. A game of ding-dong ditch. But they were very persistent, and they were very good at running away. She never even caught a glimpse of them. She told her parents, but they just shrugged. "It's kids being kids," her dad said. "They'll get tired of it soon." So, Maya tried to ignore it. When the doorbell rang, she would just roll over in her bed and pull the pillow over her head. But the not knowing was the worst part. Who was it? Why were they doing it? Each time the bell rang, a little knot of anxiety would form in her stomach. She started to dread the night. She would lie in bed waiting for it, waiting for that cheerful little chime to break the silence. Ding dong. It didn't sound so cheerful anymore. It sounded like a threat. It sounded like a warning. She started imagining things. What if it wasn't kids? What if it was someone else? Someone who was watching her house. Someone who was waiting for something. The thoughts were silly, she told herself, but they wouldn't go away. The day before Halloween, it snowed. A thick, wet snow that stuck to everything. That night, the doorbell didn't ring. Maya was so relieved. She thought maybe the snow had finally stopped the pranksters. Maybe they didn't want to run through the slush and the cold. She had her first good night's sleep in a week. She woke up feeling refreshed. Maybe her dad was right. Maybe they had just gotten tired of the game. She almost forgot about the phantom doorbell ringer. But Halloween night was coming, and the game was far from over. It was about to get much, much more frightening. Halloween night arrived cold and white. The snow from the day before was still on the ground, making everything look clean, and honestly, kind of eerie. Maya wasn't really in the mood for Halloween. The doorbell situation had left her feeling on edge, but her parents insisted they carve pumpkins, so they did. Maya carved a simple, smiling face on hers. She wanted something happy, something to chase away the creepy feelings she'd been having. They put the pumpkins on the porch. Their candles flickered, casting a warm orange glow on the snow. For a little while, things felt normal. They felt safe. Later that evening, the doorbell rang. Ding dong, Maya froze. Her dad went to the door with a bowl of candy. He opened it, a big smile on his face. "Happy Halloween," he said. But his smile faded. There was no one there, not a single trick-or-treater, just empty snow-covered steps. And something else. A small black box was sitting on the doormat. It was about the size of a deck of cards. It looked like a garage door opener. Her dad picked it up, a confused look on his face. "What's this?" he wondered out loud. He pushed the only button on it. From inside the house they heard it. Ding dong, the doorbell. Her dad's eyes went wide. He pushed the button again. Ding dong. It was a remote control for their doorbell. This wasn't a prank where kids were running away. Someone had been standing somewhere nearby in the dark, pushing a button, watching them come to the door again and again. The thought sent a chill down Maya's spine that had nothing to do with the cold night air. Who would do that? And why? It was creepy. It was invasive. They had been watched for a whole week. Suddenly, all the lights in the house went out, plunged into total darkness. Maya screamed. Her mom fumbled for her phone, turning on its flashlight. The beam cut through the blackness, dancing around the room. "The power's out," her dad said, his voice tight. "The whole street is dark." Maya looked out the window. It was true. All the houses on their block were black. It wasn't just them. It was a blackout. And then, through the silence and the dark, they heard a sound. Not the doorbell this time. It was a soft, slow scratching sound. It was coming from the back door. The scratching sound was terrifying. It was slow and deliberate. Scrape, scrape, like fingernails dragging down the wooden door. Or maybe something sharper. Maya's dad whispered for everyone to be quiet. He grabbed the heaviest thing he could find in the dark, a big metal flashlight. He crept toward the back of the house, toward the kitchen. Maya and her mom stayed huddled in the living room, barely breathing. The scratching stopped. It was replaced by a new sound, the sound of the doorknob turning, slowly, jiggling. Someone was trying to get in. Suddenly, the kitchen door burst open. A figure stood there. It was a person, but they were wearing a costume, a simple, terrifying costume. They wore dark clothes, and on their face they wore a plain white mask. It had no expression, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, blank surface. It was the scariest thing Maya had ever seen. The person in the mask just stood there in the doorway, their head tilted slightly. They didn't say a word, they didn't move, they just stared. The beam from her mom's phone landed on the figure, making the white mask glow in the dark. Maya's dad yelled, "Get out of my house!" He raised the heavy flashlight, but the masked figure didn't flinch. They just took one slow step inside, then another. That was it for Maya. She wasn't going to wait to see what happened next. She grabbed her mom's arm. "The front door!" she screamed. They ran. They stumbled through the dark living room, past the unlit pumpkins. Maya threw open the front door, and they spilled out into the freezing night. The snow crunched under their feet. They didn't look back. They just ran. They ran across their lawn, across the street. They didn't stop until they reached their neighbor's house. They pounded on the door, screaming for help. Lights came on. The door opened. They were safe. The police came again. They searched Maya's house, but the person in the mask was gone. Just like the shadow in my room, they had vanished. They never found out who it was, or why they terrorized Maya's family. It was another Halloween mystery. A night of fear that started with a simple doorbell ring and ended with a desperate run for safety into the cold, snowy darkness.